installment of the Mental Takedown. On this episode, we have Illinois 133-pounder Travis Piotrowski, who just finished up his senior campaign. Travis is a four-time NCAA qualifier, 2020 first-team All-American from the NWCA, Illinois high school state champion, and had an undefeated dual season his senior campaign in the ever-challenging Big Ten Conference. In this episode, Travis opens up about his college career and talks about what's next for him in the classroom and as a graduate assistant for Illinois this upcoming season. What's probably most impressive about this interview was he answered my sometimes incomprehensible and convoluted questions, all while navigating the roads of the wonderful state of Illinois. And without further ado, go ahead and roll this wonderful interview. And now, through the power of the internet, we have Travis Piotrowski, four-time NCAA qualifier and 2020 NWCA All-American, joining us. How are you doing, Travis?
Doing really good. How are you?
I guess the first obligatory question has to be, how has quarantine been affecting you and kind of how whatever your new normal might be?
Yeah, quarantine's been probably the same for everybody. I mean, it sucks being in lockdown and all that stuff. So nothing other than not wrestling has changed. I feel like that's been one of the big downsides to this whole quarantine thing, is that getting access to a facility is almost impossible. Getting access to a weight room is pretty hard, especially in Illinois. So I'm fine. I'm doing great. I'm making the most of it. Just doing a lot of free time stuff.
All right, sounds good. And now looking back, you just finished your senior campaign. Really good campaign, I think over 85 wins over 4 years. And when you first started, guys like Isaiah Martinez and very, very strong perennial All-Americans and national champions were on the team, whereas by the senior year, you were kind of the guy leading the charge. And how does your not only responsibility but personality change for the team, and how does your role shift from year to year?
Yeah, it's been awesome being on those teams, being a part of, especially like on a team with like Isaiah Martinez, Zach Brunson, Zane Richards, like those guys, top elite guys. It was really cool to see how they can be a leader on the team, and kind of I saw myself adapt to that almost. It was, coming in as a freshman, I don't want to say I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like a high schooler, just coming into the lineup. So the biggest adjustment that changed up until like junior, senior year was a big leadership role. Usually what happens is, on any team, usually it's like seniority. Like whoever's the oldest is usually like the team captain, is the leader. But I really kind of stepped up and took a role in that, in the leadership aspect, on kind of taking our freshmen, taking our sophomores, and kind of putting them up at a next level to where not necessarily they just have to be better or work them out hard or that kind of thing, but also like the mindset thing. There's a lot of aspects of wrestling that go in like with the mind and go into like wrestling and into tournaments, into dual matches. So it's really boosting their confidence when I'm able to give them a piece of my mind and exactly what's going to benefit them in the long run for not only school, academics, and wrestling, but also like when they're out there competing.
Nice. And how does like this particular aspect of mindset change depending on the type of competition, whether that be duels, single day tournaments, or at the national championship where you're there for a whole weekend?
Yeah, it's like anything else. Anybody can beat anybody on any given day. And I think the biggest aspect of the mind part is kind of getting confidence in yourself. You're on a Division I lineup in the Big Ten, like you're good. Like don't like overlook that. Like you're in the toughest conference, you're going to be wrestling the toughest guys, and know that you're up there with them. And then I think when you start kind of realizing that you have the capability to be one of those guys, is when you start seeing success in a lot of these guys. I mean, especially like with the younger guys, if they get confidence, not necessarily being cocky, but if they get confidence in themselves to beat these big name guys, it only leads to more success.
And do you think having been in the Big Ten all 4 years gave you a psychological advantage when the calendar started to turn?
I don't know if it gave me a psychological advantage, but it definitely changed my perspective on wrestling. Being in the Big Ten, and then even looking at the Big Ten conference qualifiers and that kind of thing, you see that it's like top 8, top 9, top 10 guys go to the national tournament from the Big Ten. So it's a realization that, yeah, I'm in a tough conference, but it also shows that when you're doing good at these tournaments and in these dual meets and beating some good guys or even just Big Ten guys, it does give you that little bit of confidence to really take it to the next level for the national tournament.
And I guess after you finish your career, you are going to go on to be a graduate assistant and be part of the coaching staff at Illinois, where you'll be working under Coach Heff, who has been there for quite a while. What are the kind of stylistic approach differences between somebody that's been doing it a long time like him and maybe someone like you or other graduate assistants that are maybe coaching seriously for the first time?
Yeah, we've had a couple graduate assistants. Can you see me still? Yeah, there.
Yeah, you're good.
Weird. We've had a couple graduate assistants in the past, like Zach Brunson. We've had him. We've had Isaiah, obviously. So the difference between them or like me and like someone like Coach Heff is Coach Heff has been through the ringer, man. Like he's an intimidating guy, very successful wrestler in the Big Ten and national level. So for him to kind of give you his peace of mind in wrestling, it's big. It's you really take his words and you turn it into something. So when he's talking, no one else is talking. It's kind of like that kind of relationship. He's kind of like the father figure of our wrestling program. He looks out for us. I bet you he cares more about things like this national tournament and the coronavirus thing going on more than we did, because it hurts him that much to see us suffer and what we're going through. When he has something to say during technique, it's very his way of saying things is, you got to do it this way. It might be harder, but in the long run, it's going to make you better. Like, he'll tell you how it is. I think from a graduate assistant perspective in coaching, we'll kind of give our peace of mind in things and how we were coping with stress or our kind of pre-match routines or whatever the case might be. But it's ultimately something that, okay, like the wrestlers will take into account. They'll either apply it or they don't. And in the long run, it's not really going to make as big of an impact as it would be coming from a head coach or an assistant coach with that kind of accolades.
Okay. And more on the mental side, when you were wrestling in the Big Ten, as we discussed, such a gauntlet of a conference, when somebody specifically, could you tell when somebody was trying to get in your head, and did you take any like prophylaxis, or how did you kind of cope with that throughout the intensity of a match?
I don't necessarily think anybody was trying to get in my head. I think that's all part of their routine. Like there is just like some guys that have their own routine and they act a certain way, and it's just how you react to what they're doing. Like some guys will slap their face, or some guys will listen to music, jump around, whatever the case is. It doesn't matter what the other guy is doing. And I think that also comes with age and maturity, is when it doesn't matter what the other guy is doing, what the other guy tries to do to get in your head. It's what you have to do to get ready and what you have to do to go out there and win. So it really didn't bother me if anybody was doing any sort of thing to try and get in my head, if they were trying to. But at the end of the day, it was what I had to do at the end of the match. Like, it's what I had to do to win.
And is that something that you understood at a very young age, or did that take kind of over time and took some evolution to eventually get to?
I kind of adapted to it over time. It didn't happen right away. I think my freshman year, I was not necessarily confident in myself, but I didn't think I would be as successful as I was. And when I kind of got to the Big Ten tournament, I just let it fly because it was just more of like, all right, well, I'm here, like, let's do it. Like it was, I just went out there and wrestled hard, and that was it. I think it wasn't until my junior year to where I really started to realize what like I needed to do to be successful and like what kind of mindset I needed to have.
And you went to high school in Illinois, then transferred straight into Illinois and did all 4 years and started as a true freshman nowadays, which is something that's extremely rare. Do you think that should happen more often? And do you think that there are advantages to not redshirting and just allowing kids not to take that year off?
I guess there's positives and negatives. I really think that taking that redshirt year is very important and very advantageous for people to do in order to be successful in college. But I think at the end of the day, whether you're a freshman or a redshirt freshman, it's a mindset thing still. It's how you're going to cope with everything and cope with being in a starting lineup in a Division I program and going against these big name guys. I think that's really what it comes down to. And I think that the quicker that the guys mature at a younger age, the more successful they will be. I didn't really, not necessarily saying that I wasn't going to be successful as a freshman or that someone else won't be successful as a true freshman. It was more so the mindset of everything. It really was, because as soon as I started to really have confidence in myself and believe that I can be one of those top guys and an All-American and whatnot, it's really when I started to see success in my own performance.
And how does the Illini team kind of gauge mental performance compared to physical, like actual stats, or physically, which is much easier to gauge than the mental side of things?
Yeah, I mean, anybody can really go into a college practice and work hard, and if they have the endurance to do it, by all means, like, do it. I think that's very beneficial to every college wrestler, is the endurance side of things and being able to accept being tired and kind of working through it. I think that's a big aspect in wrestling, especially at a collegiate Division I level. But specifically for Illini wrestling, I mean, in these past couple years with Mike Poeta as our assistant coach, he's really focused on the mental aspect of things and really gaining that confidence and accepting being tired and loving it. Like, that's one thing that he's always said from my sophomore year is, like, I'm tired and I love it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, he's just as tired, if not more tired than I am, but I love it. So I think that was one thing that we were really trying to focus on these past couple of years, especially last year, really clicked for me, with kind of just loving the sport, loving the competition, and really going out there and leaving it all out there. Like, if I lost on my own, and that was it.
And are there kind of interaction changes, and how does the coaching staff approach kind of a team-wide when something doesn't go your way as a team? Is there something that the coaches will revert to as a way to kind of lift everybody's spirits up, or is it kind of on your own to kind of deal with these kinds of things?
I think, yeah, I know what you mean. It's, I mean, at least for Illinois, what we did, it was a lot of, like, if we had a duel that didn't go our way or didn't go as planned, and whatever happened, we just didn't perform the way we were supposed to perform, it would be a lot of, we would get chewed out. Like, what you're supposed to do. You know what this guy was supposed to do, or you didn't do this when you were out on the mat. Kind of go through the lineup and say, listen, you did this good, you did this bad, you got to fix it. If you want to be successful, you got to fix it. And I think that's one thing that, again, it goes with maturity. It's up to you to make the decision to change something or to get better at something. And at the end of the day, it's your own fault if you don't. So the coaches will give you every opportunity to be successful, to learn the right things, to compete the right way. But at the end of the day, it's your decision on what you're going to do, whether that's a weight cut and you're doing it wrong and you got to fix something, or whether that's working on a move so you can get it down better for later. And yeah.
Speaking of duels and such, was there any psychological challenges or even advantages to dueling twice, maybe in different cities on the same weekend? Or what were kind of the dynamics when y'all had a huge weekend coming up versus, like, let's say, just a off weekend or even a weekend against, let's say, on paper, less known opponent?
Yeah, we had a couple weekends where we would have two duels, like a Friday Sunday duel, and there were some others where we like early in the season we would take like a week break, like that's how it usually just went. But it would be every single week we would have a duel, whether that's a Friday duel or a Sunday duel. And I personally loved going to other places. I loved feeling the crowd in other places. I loved being hated and going to a different school and want everybody want me to lose. Like everybody want me to lose. And then I go out there and I'll whoop their guy. Like that I love that. Like I love that feeling. I love doing that. So going to other places, it never really bothered me. But every time I was at home, it was more of, I'm going to put on a show for my home crowd because these are my guys. This is my family. This is who I am. So it didn't really matter where I was, what I was doing. I loved it. I think, there is positives and negatives to everything and going into a away duel and even like in a home duel. There's positive and negatives on both sides. I feel like at a home duel, you might be thinking about school more. You might be focused on other things in your life. And at an away duel, you're really focused. You know what you got to do. You're doing everything to make sure your weight's right, to compete right. And at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. It was just more of going out there and competing and having the right mindset.
On the topic of school, you were a major in finance and the business of advertising. That's what it is. Do you think there are similarities to the way that maybe we think in advertising and the way you approach wrestling, and how has your overall experience in the classroom kind of changed the way you look at wrestling?
That's a good question. Even in all my classes, like economics or whatnot, a lot of it was hard. A lot of it was stuff that I didn't want to do, and I didn't really apply to wrestling because it was so statistic based or whatever it is. I don't know. It just didn't really apply. But in certain things and ways I would learn, I would apply to wrestling. So if I learned a certain way on how to do things in advertising or in finance, in my classes, if I figured out a way to be successful in my class, I would kind of get creative in finding a way to do something in wrestling. So whether that be not necessarily discovering a new move, but doing something that I don't really do before and kind of just letting loose, or whether that's perfecting a move in a different way from a different position, getting to a leg in a certain position, just that stuff. I don't really think it's really hard to apply school and wrestling together, and how you can overcome things or learn things. But at the end of the day, with wrestling, when you're in a match, everything is really instinct. If you have to really think about what you're doing out on the wrestling mat, it's already too late to even do the move.
So would you say that once the match begins, although you'll do plenty of game planning and watch film and whatnot, that the sooner that you learn to just kind of instinctively let go, that's the way that you'll see more, let's say, statistical success in wrestling?
I'd say if we're watching film, which is something that I really don't do, it'll just because I don't like focusing on the other guy and what he's gonna do. I like going out there and doing what I just have to do. But if there's a thing if we know we're wrestling a guy that really likes grabbing wrists and really likes controlling the wrist, I'll do a lot of things beforehand, like that week, in working on getting away from a wrist control tie or something like that. And I think that all goes, like, it's all part of having good practice partners. I mean, everybody who I've wrestled in the practice room, they really want to make me better. They want to see me succeed. They want to be where I'm at. So it was really a good feeling to have going into a wrestling room with guys that want to be successful for you and like with you. So I think when you have good partners that are able to kind of mimic what other opponents are going to do or kind of wrestle how they do, it's very beneficial when you actually go out there on the wrestling mat.
Not to put you on the spot, but having had an advertising major in school, what are some of the things that you think that I guess the wrestling community can kind of come together and cohesively try to make the sport a little bit more mainstream and expand its base of popularity?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think what's going on right now with like flow wrestling, with track wrestling, with everything, I think they're doing a great job at promoting the sport. And I mean, I think that the sport has really started to gain success in people actually watching it. Like, I know I had a duel my junior year that I wasn't able to actually compete at, but we had it out Memorial Stadium in Grange Grove at U of I, and right before a football game, and a whole bunch of football fans were even watching it, and they're like, this is awesome, like, I love it. And I think that comes down to just kind of getting creative with the sport. I really don't think there's a lot of stuff that we can do mainstream, like whether that's like commercials or whatever the case is, but we really do highlight a lot of good wrestling at the high school and collegiate level for the outlets that we have. I think that at the end of the day, it's just going to be the wrestling community and what they think of it. The wrestling community runs so deep, and I have connections everywhere, from people that I've met to people that I've wrestled, everything, all over the country, that it's almost like a friendship. Like, whether you're wrestling each other or not, you have that some sort of bond with them. And I think that's something that's unique about wrestlers, is that although we're such a small group of guys and individuals that are able to beat the crap out of each other and still be friends at the end of the day, I think we're doing everything that we can to really promote the sport in the wrestling community.
And having wrestled in Illinois your entire life, and kind of going back and looking at the high school scene now, what are kind of the differences, and how do you take your own experience as someone that's wrestled at a top program for 4 years and kind of try to spread the depth of knowledge that you have?
Like with our wrestling team?
With just the Illinois wrestling community in general, for people that like need, whether that be through camps or coaching or whatnot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like with the people that we even have coming next year, or like when I'll go to a camp or a practice or that kind of thing, you see that the Illinois guys, they love the University of Illinois. I mean, that's just like that. That's like, it's their hometown state. Like, I mean, it's what they do. They just like the school. They like the sport. They go down there for the state tournament in Champaign. They love being on campus. So I think that plays a big part in the wrestling community for Illinois. But as for like, there's others there. I mean, I'm not going to be naive and say that there's not other great programs out there that people can go to. I mean, we've had a ton of Illinois guys go to different universities, Iowa, Okie State, like that kind of thing. So it really, like, we really try to promote that this is where you want to be. This is what, like, if you want a great education, if you want a great wrestling team, if you want a tight, close wrestling team, this is where you want to be. Because, I mean, we go through everything together. We, like I said before, we beat each other up, and we're friends at the end of the day. I mean, we might, it's like really getting into each other. We might make each other bleed, cut, bruise, whatever. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we're friends. We're all going to go sit down and we're going to eat together. So.
And What do you think, as far as mentality-wise, we all have kind of your own goals that you hit throughout your career. How did you take that into account when you were, I don't know, maybe looking at now that you've had some time to reflect on your career?
Yeah, I mean, going into college as a freshman, I wanted to be an All-American. I wanted to be a national champion. That's I mean, two serious goals that anyone in the sport can have. And I think ultimately, like, being an All-American is the ultimate goal, and that's what everybody wants, regardless of what's going on in your life. Like, wrestling has been, at least for a lot of collegiate wrestlers, it's been their whole life. It's been everything that they've wanted to do. Like, whether that's success in high school and be a state champion, or being a Fargo national champion, or whatever the case is, there's always been more that we've always wanted to succeed at. So I don't, like, right now with like a lot of college athletes, like, I mean, you don't, I mean, not necessarily that it's common or anything like that, but a lot of them, like, they want to go to the Olympics because they're still hungry for more. They might All-American, they might be a national champion, but they still want more. I mean, Isaiah is a perfect example of that. He got 2 national titles, was a 4-time finalist, and then after he was done with college, it's like, yeah, I want more. I want that Olympic gold medal. And he started training for that. He started wrestling Burroughs and Dake and all those guys. So I think that's one thing about wrestlers, is that we're just bred different. We want more. We want to succeed more. And yeah.
And does it feel complete, the fact that the way kind of the career ended and kind of the whole situation? And, you know, are you kind of, now that you've had some time to process it, are you kind of more at peace with it than, let's say, when it first initially dropped?
Yeah, I guess you could say I'm more at peace with it. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, I mean, at the end, like, it's bottom line, really. It's not it wasn't my decision. It wasn't my call to make, and I couldn't do anything about it. I mean, I'm hurt by it. It sucks. I mean, I really wish I did get a chance to compete at nationals, because I do feel like that the season was incomplete. I'm sure every wrestler feels that way. Um, and yeah, I mean, it sucks. It hurts, but I think I have, and I've had, a different mentality than most when it came to the coronavirus hitting and not having a national tournament. It was one of those things where it's like, okay, if I can't succeed um, at the national level with wrestling, I'm going to succeed at something else. I'm going to apply this to the workforce, to actually succeeding with my job in the future, to succeeding in school, finishing out my master's program, succeeding in that. Like, I know that a lot of wrestlers, they feel helpless that they can't have the opportunity to compete or have the opportunity to get an All-American status. And at the end of the day, how I feel, it's there's always more to succeed at.
And then finally, I guess, lighthearted question: will you be more or less nervous on competition days as a grad assistant than when you were in the thick of things yourself?
I will feel more nervous, definitely more nervous. I mean, I have watched, like, some of my matches from a little bit ago or whatever, like from this past year, and I still get nervous watching them. Even though I know how it's going to end, even though I know that I won the match, I still get nervous even watching it. So, I mean, I'm one of those people where I just want to go out there and wrestle. I want to wrestle for you, like, kind of thing. So I'm definitely going to be more nervous watching, like, my guys and our team compete. Um, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's gonna be their decision. It's gonna be their decision to make whether they're gonna win or lose. And I'm gonna do everything that I can to prepare them to win.
And is Coach Hef the only one that can throw the brick?
No, I think any assistant coach, but they've been hesitant to throw the brick sometimes.
Well, thank you so much for putting up with me for half an hour and being one of the first people to do this. And best of luck with you as a grad assistant and whatever else you do.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for doing this. This is really cool.
Thank you.